Hi, welcome to the podcast, Wendy Faust. I'm so excited to have you here. You are the executive director of the Live Like Lou Foundation, and you also took one of my programs. And before we started recording, you told me some numbers, and I was like, oh my gosh, we actually have to start recording right now because I'm so excited. But before we dig into the data, tell us a bit about you and your work with Live Like Lou.
Sure. So I have been Live Like Lou's executive director since the fall of 2021. I was the organization's first full-time employee. So we are relatively small, grassroots. We're about 6 years old. The co-founder of the Live Like Lou Foundation helped really establish the day-to-day operations of the organization. She retired as a board member earlier this year, but she lost her husband to ALS. And when he was diagnosed with the disease in 2011, the two of them decided that they were going to live like Lou. And the reference there is Lou Gehrig. So Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS. And living like Lou means living with courage, living with determination, and with gratitude. And those three things are things that Lou Gehrig exemplified in his life. Certainly teamwork and determination as well. He showed up for his team. He was not only exceptionally talented, he was just an incredible human. So Live Like Lou exists to do three things: to meaningfully support families that have been affected by the disease. We do that through hands-on service, scholarship programs for children in ALS families, and home improvement grants. We also fund emerging ALS research, so early in career scientists. We focus on the basic science of the disease, keeping them in the lab, studying what's causing the disease. And then our third mission focus is to amplify Lou Gehrig's story and create more awareness for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm like nodding to all of it. So, for a lot of our listeners, I think ALS kind of first, like me, came on the map. I was looking at it today. I think it was 2014 was the Ice Bucket Challenge. And that was
Yep.
really where it was like became a household name, a household phenomenon too. It was the first big giant viral fundraiser. And what I was thinking about in advance of this conversation today was like it put the organization or it put the cause on the map, right? But it also shows you, I think, the power of like something going viral, but that not being the end all be all to like longevity, sustainability. Can you talk a little bit about how maybe that awareness piece was really, really important, but also how it's like you can't, what happens after it, right?
Yeah, I think, every nonprofit person, and in my personal history, I've been in nonprofit development for
Hmm.
the better part of the last 2 decades, and communications, corporate communications prior to that. Every organization, every business is looking for that ice bucket challenge moment. And I would say even before working for the Live Like Lou Foundation, I didn't have a personal connection to ALS. I married a baseball player who Lou Gehrig happens to be his personal hero and someone that he has had as a role model his entire life. But I wasn't super familiar with the disease. Um, as a nonprofit and corporate communications person, everyone would kill for those ice bucket moments that
Hmm.
have that viral thing. But I would say that since taking this role, it's about 50-50 that people know the ice bucket challenge was ALS, or they remember the ice bucket challenge but don't remember the cause that it was for. And I think that is what really speaks to me for this disease in particular, that the awareness side of the work that we do is so important, because
Yep.
it's not that ALS is rare. It's not that ALS is incurable. This disease is underfunded and there's not enough awareness about it, right? So I'm a cancer survivor. There are so many incredible cancer organizations. I've done a ton of volunteer work with various ones of them. Most people know someone connected to cancer. But I will say without fail, I have chills while I say this to you: once you meet someone living with ALS, you are touched for the rest of your life. But to quote one of the most incredible women living with this disease, Brooke Eby, she is in her early 30s, and she has become the TikTok voice of ALS.
Yep.
She had a quote in a magazine recently that was so powerful to me. Other diseases like cancer have survivors. ALS doesn't have survivors. This disease is fatal.
Yep.
So that ice bucket challenge moment helped, but did it, right? If you can't even name why you were dumping a bucket of ice water on yourself, if you gave the $10 to the organization at the time, what has that continued communication look like? Because we need more people that care about this disease. And so whether it's another viral ice bucket challenge moment or it's creating ambassadors for this cause,
Yes.
because again, we firmly believe it's not that it's incurable, it's just underfunded.
100%. Okay. Thank you for that. I think you
Yeah.
said a lot. You said continued communication, and that is the piece. And I'm so glad that you said for all the people that know of the ice bucket challenge, You just schooled me because I would have guessed it was higher, at least associated with ALS, but I'm in the pool with you, right? I'm in this nonprofit world. So the average person is like, yeah, I heard of that, but they're not necessarily connecting it to the cause, which says, oh boy, are we not done yet? We are not done yet. And that is what we kind of seek to exist. And that's why the viral moments are great, but the continued communication, that's where we build trust, loyalty, and that's where we see the increased funding. So
Really.
let's dig in to our conversation, which happened in the DMs on Giving Tuesday, I think, or the day after.
Yep.
On Live Like Lose Instagram, you were like, we doubled our Giving Tuesday goal. And so I was just so excited. And so you and I were DMing, and I'm like, all right, what do you think? Like, what was the special sauce? What do you feel like did it? Because anytime any of my clients, they 2x their goal, I'm like, what worked, right? And I want you to share. What do you feel like worked well to help you 2x your goal?
So if you don't mind, I'm going to back up a little bit to what brought us to even having an email system in the first place for Live Like
Yes.
Lose, right?
Yes.
So I will get to your question.
Yes.
But I think the story helps really articulate the importance of the email communication. So I get hired fall of 2021. I inherit a spreadsheet of 34,000 rows of, donations and names and email addresses and phone numbers, and holy cow, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
We've come a long way. It feels really good.
Let's take a moment, because that is enough where some people would have a level of overwhelm where they're like, I can't. So let's just take a moment that you said, I can, I'm going to figure it out. Let's go.
Well, very thankful. I worked at a university where, by happenstance, I had taken over advancement services for a little bit of time. Well, not a little bit of time. I ended up taking it over and running the advancement services office for several years. So trial by fire, I figured
Yep.
out figured out databases, had quite a bit of experience in it. So I knew where to go. At least I knew the tools I needed to be successful. So within 2 months, we had a CRM up and running,
Nice.
and we use Bloomerang. And within Bloomerang, they have a baked-in email platform. And our co-founder, who had been running the day-to-day organization, had been essentially using a Gmail or using her Outlook and blind copying people when she needed to send out information. And it was obviously successful, obviously effective, because we're here today with an incredible group of people that were very interested in our work.
Mm-hmm.
But come January 2022, it's a whole new day that I have the ability to do branded communications, to track opens, to track the
Yep.
data that is so important to help tell the story of who's interested. And so we got to work, and we set out to do a quarterly newsletter, and we were successful with that. Additional segmented, touches to other individual people from time to time as well throughout that year. But then came across you and joined the email boot camp, essentially, is what I've referred to it as, at the beginning of this year. And honestly, Christina, like it really opened our eyes to increasing the frequency, not to be afraid of unsubscribes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I was in the first, my first year, I'm like looking at the unsubscribes from every message, and I'm like, oh, it hurts my feelings.
Yep.
But in reality, it's told me who I need to focus on, and it's told me who is the highest and best use of my time. So this year, we set out to at least have monthly communication. So three times the amount, went from quarterly to monthly.
Yep. Yep.
At least monthly communications to our broad database. We've successfully done that. And on top of that, we've been able to segment much more meaningfully, that when we find out someone's interested in our ALS family programs or ALS
Yep.
research or ALS awareness, we're able to really send targeted messaging. Our gifts are coming in also with appeal codes and things like that. So the segmentation, I think, has been super priceless. Along the way, through great ideas through you and some of the other groups that I've been a part of, I firmly believe the investment in professional development is so huge. And so, through going through the course with you and the follow-up information you've provided, I soak that stuff up, and I followed a lot of those recommendations. In October, we implemented email on the year anniversary of your first gift.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had someone really, really smart make a comment to me that when she's a very known entity in the ALS advocacy world, and I had the pleasure of having coffee with her beginning of October. And she had said to me that when individuals ask her which ALS organization they should donate to, she gives them a list and she shares who her favorites are, but that she tells them they should call and ask, if I give $100 today, how will it be used in the next 30 days?
Mm.
That was so powerful to me, because so many of our donors are peer-to-peer. So many of them are that $25, $50, $100 mark. And I ended up sitting at my daughter's swim meet that weekend with lots of time on my hands, put together, this is what your dollars are doing immediately. And in the last year since
Mm,
you gave your first gift, this is what we're doing. So there's only a quarter of history there of people that are getting those emails, but we've started to add things like that into the mix. We do a first-time donor thank you email. We do, when they
yep.
register for our newsletter on our website, they get an
Yep.
email on the Monday following. We haven't built journeys yet, but it's on
It's
the list.
coming. Yes.
Tomorrow and Thursday, I'm actually interviewing for a communications person to join our team.
Yes.
So we're
Yes.
growing, which is exciting. And the donor journeys and series are number one on the list of their responsibilities when they start with us. Suffice it to say, I think, getting to the Giving Tuesday success, Giving Tuesday 2021 was the first time we had any kind of presence on a day like that. I think out of the
Mhm.
gate, 15 of the donors were my friends and family.
Yep.
Thanks. So we had a great donor acquisition success on that day. But the dollars, we didn't hit the goal. Didn't know where to set the goal, right? Like it's the first time you're doing something like
Hmm.
that. I had a dedicated giving day about 6 months later. Didn't hit the goal. Giving Tuesday last year, didn't hit the goal. Giving Day this year, didn't hit the goal. And I don't want to go lower and lower, but at the same time,
Right.
I think what I saw with Giving Tuesday this year is a couple of things. The frequency of the emails that they're getting, talking about impact, hiring someone who's helping with stewardship and making calls and sending handwritten notes as well.
Yep.
It's been huge. I can't underestimate that personal touch and that human connection side of the work that we're doing. But I think social media as well was a big piece of it. We're telling our stories better. We're talking about our impact better, and we
Hmm.
have an incredible story to tell.
Yep.
And so the frequency of our emails has been huge. I mean, if you want me to dig into the numbers,
Yeah. Let's give people just some context on numbers. So when you talk about, it's interesting because you talk about really coming on with this huge database that was very, very, very analog, right? I mean, spreadsheet, and kind of inheriting that. And so your email list size, we're looking at 20,000-ish subscribers. Like that is enormous. Just to be, I'm always like, you're sitting on an untapped gold mine there. There's so much opportunity there. So there's that piece. Yeah, let's get into some numbers, but I think that will help people root into the context, because it would be easy to think that this is a small shop organization, but your numbers are not small shop numbers. Like it is an impressive feat what you've been able to accomplish and in such a short amount of time. So let's dig into some numbers.
Well, when we joined your email boot camp in January, you
Mhm.
appropriately had asked us for some of the statistics, and we had started gathering that at that point. But it
Yep.
was what really brought to light for us that, in 2022, we had 59% open rates on our emails,
Mhm.
right? Nonprofit average 20-ish,
Yeah.
25% open.
So it's still great. Amazing. Yeah.
It was incredible. And we were,
Yeah.
delighted by that. And I will be very honest, Christina, when you talked about you need to be sending emails weekly, it was like, oh, but they're gonna unsubscribe, right? Like
Yeah.
that fear.
Yeah.
We tripled the frequency this year, plus added more targeted, segmented, specific information. Our open rates through November are at 64%. It's ridiculous. And
Tripling the frequency,
tripling the
which
frequency.
resulted in increasing the open rates. You guys, like this is, I feel like when the inner chatter does sound like, oh my God, I'm going to be over emailing. It's like, what if it's the opposite? What if the exact opposite happens? What if it's better? Yeah. Keep going.
Well, and I think, we've also been able to learn a lot through
Yep.
who's clicking and who's opening. And I think that's, the beauty of our Bloomerang platform and their
Yep.
proprietary engagement tool and their engagement score. We
Yep.
use that data and we use that information, and we're pulling lists based on that. So people who are reading our emails are getting a little bit
I'm
more.
so glad you said that, because you only have so many hours in the day. You have, to my knowledge, you have a full-time staffer. It sounds like we're bringing on another person. You have a small team. There's almost
We
only,
have
yeah, tell
Laura who
me.
runs the programs that did the
Hmm.
email
Yep.
start
Yep.
with you. Sarah, we hired in May. She's a stewardship and development director. And then we are hiring a full-time communications position, and we have a
Yep.
part-time database administrator.
Perfect. So when you're looking at a database that's that big, it is like needle in a haystack when you're like, who do I call today? Especially if you don't have that sort of history from the previous ED or something like that to say these are, and when you start emailing where you turn up that frequency and the data starts to tell you, right, with a great CRM, with something like Bloomerang, the data starts to show up and say, do this, not that, try this, not that, right? And it actually becomes an easier process. And to me, that's like an upfront lift that's worth every single dollar to get that
Yeah,
data out of. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, and that's, you know, we're looking at other options in 2024 to help build those journeys more automatically
Yeah.
and automatically so that we're not having to use the staff time to manually do it, which we are in Bloomerang. It's been
Hmm.
great.
Hmm.
But we're looking at those options when we hire that position to explore how
Exactly.
we automate a lot of this work, which is really exciting. And I'm looking at my spreadsheet of my programs dashboard. I set my goal for the open rate to be 55% for this year because I was like, no way it's going to get better. It's going to go down because now like the novelty's worn off. They get emails from Live Like Lou. Cool.
The
That we've gone up
novelty has
9%.
worn off. There's no novelty. Yeah. Yeah. There's no novelty. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
no,
Okay.
it's pretty fantastic.
I'm
You were
curious.
right.
Yes. I'm curious where, for a lot of organizations who are like, how did they get that many email subscribers? Where
Mm.
do your email subscribers come from? Is it a lot of peer fundraisers? Is it like, how do people find you? Maybe is the best question. Just
Yeah, great question. So we do have one of our main drivers of contacts is through a peer-to-peer program. So Lou Gehrig was a member of a fraternity, Phi Delta Theta
mhm.
at Columbia University. And so we exist because our friends at Phi Delta Theta helped establish Live Like Lou's national presence. We existed grassroots locally there in Pittsburgh when Suzanne and Neil Neil was first diagnosed, and they did some work locally in Pittsburgh. And then in 2017, through Phi Delta Theta fraternity, we were established as a national nonprofit. And the fraternity has a program that's existed since 2010 called Iron Phi. And individual members of the fraternity can become an Iron Phi by raising $1,000 through their own personal network and completing an athletic challenge. So it can be 5K, it can be marathon. I became an Iron Phi. You don't have to be a Phi Delt. I did an indoor triathlon at Orange Theory Fitness where I work out and became an Iron Phi. And we're starting a program next year in January. We are starting a program called Lou's Crew that's going to be comparable but intended for non-members of the fraternity.
So smart.
The majority of our emails came from there. Additionally, we have more than 500 ALS families that have registered for our services since
Yep.
2018. So along with those individuals usually come a caregiver. So we have about 1,000 people affiliated with the various programs that we run for ALS families. We have an audience of about 150 researchers that are connected somehow to ALS research at a different university or institution.
Mhm.
We do events with Major League Baseball. So Lou Gehrig Day started in Major League Baseball in 2021. We held one event that year, and now we did 9 events with Major League Baseball over this past summer in 2023. We hope to have 10 Major League Baseball events next year, but we had over 1,000 people buy tickets through us to sit with Live Like Lou at one of those 9 baseball games this year. So they become part of our audience. They're able to give a donation
Yep.
when they purchase their tickets. Many of them do. So our audience is people interested in baseball, interested in
Yep.
the Lou
I
Gehrig.
am hearing aligned partnerships, aligned partnerships. And the other thing that I'm
100%.
hearing is you can have an incredible impact. Like this is fire hose amount of subscribers, amount of supporters, and these are two very specific partnerships, one with the baseball and the other with the fraternity, right? It's like very specific. You don't need to have this I need to have my hands in this many buckets to get 20,000 subscribers or to get this impact point. It's just like these highly aligned partnerships and like nurture those, let those grow. So that is that is so smart. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad you talked about the segmenting too, because you can segment out people, right, based on their preferences.
Right. Well, and not to make this too like duh, but we launched a brand new website. We went through a rebrand.
Yep. Yep.
This time last year, we launched the new brand 1st of January. That was the first time we had a dedicated website. So our website was tied to our giving page. So we were very limited on the number of pages we could have, content, design, all of that until a year ago.
So one of the things that is very, very clear, and maybe it's the last 12 to 24 months, is that Live Like Lou Foundation has said, we are investing in an online presence. We are investing in what it's going to take to bring us up. And there was quite a few investments in this, right? It's like, let's do the website. Let's do the continuing ed, right? Make sure we've got a CRM rocket and rolling. Let's make sure the fact that you're even saying we're hiring somebody for comms, right? Is like, so many people are like, you can't wait, what? And so I'm seeing that as very, very strategic. And maybe let's talk a little bit about why that, like why the online piece.
Yeah, well, so the website thing, just to mention, we've had 268 people through November sign up to receive information from us because we have a link to do so on our website that we didn't have until January of this year. That has
Yes.
blown my mind. My goal for the year was 200 people would subscribe. I set that goal like shot in the dark, right? Like I
Yep.
have no
Yep.
idea how many people are going to go to the website and say, yes, please
Just
pick me.
yes.
268 through November of people that have said, tell me more about Live Like Lou, right? That opt-in has been so blatant. So I
Yes.
think, you know, the investment in the operational capacity of the organization is, I attribute it to an incredible board of directors. I'm a
Hmm.
board of trustees. I'm so fortunate with incredible leaders um, that are willing to say yes, and that, investing in these kind of operational tools are going to pay off in spades, and they really have. I mean, it blows my mind sometimes to look back at some of the numbers and to see where I'm a huge goal setter and,
Yeah.
to look at the metrics and look at the KPIs and set those things up. It's powerful to know that that investment in infrastructure is able to help us be more successful fundraisers. I mean, this communication specialist, no one is more excited than me, who I'm in Canva designing
Yes.
social media posts on Giving Tuesday, chatting with you
That's
over
right.
Instagram. 3 months from now, that is not going to have to be me, which is so exciting.
Yes. We want to offload that job
Yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
it's not the highest and best use of my time. I love it.
Mm-mm.
I can get stuck in that all day, every day. I can write. I mean, and some of the skills, Christina, honestly, that I learned in your email class too, of just give myself 20 minutes and sit down and
Yep.
write. Picked up the Pomodoro timer has been something that I've picked up
Oh,
of
nice.
late as
Yep.
well. Just, focus for that 20 minutes, take a break. And allowing myself to have the creative time, but limiting it because it's
Yep.
so easy for me. I was a communications major in college. I love to design pretty things. I mean, I've designed baby announcements and invitations and all that kind of stuff for years because it's like a side interest of mine. It's not the highest and best use of my time as the executive director. So the doors that we can open because of this. One fun story that came out of this year's Giving Tuesday as well. My stewardship and development director, day after Giving Tuesday, her name's Sarah. I can call her by
Uh-huh.
her name. She's awesome. Sarah was able to call everyone that gave on Giving Tuesday, which is amazing, right? Like
Yep.
handwritten notes are great. Sending an email
Yep.
the next day is wonderful. She made a personal call to everyone and left
Love it.
voicemails. My husband gave, and she even called my husband. He was like, "Did you make her do that?" No, she just does it. She's smart.
Yeah.
And very sweet that my husband gave. Um, the the point of this, though, one of the phone calls she made, I hadn't put two and two together in the system of this individual. They gave a gift in 2019, so they were on that massive spreadsheet. They
Hmm.
gave on first Giving Tuesday. They gave on Giving Day, Giving Tuesday, Giving Day. So they get the appeal for this time. They give.
Hmm.
First
Hmm.
time we have the bandwidth to make those personal phone calls. We're not talking a ton of dollars, but he got a phone call. Well, he is a high up in operations for the Major League Baseball team. We've got an AOL email address for him, so I had no
Yep.
idea. But
Yep.
here, okay, we had an event with your baseball team this year. Now I know we need to look you up. No clue that he was connected, following our mission, following what we're doing.
Yep.
So send the emails,
Send the
follow up,
emails.
talk
Follow
about the
up.
impact. And holy cow, I mean, that was huge when, she's making the phone call and she's slacking me. Do you know who so and so is? I was like, no, I have no idea. I look it up and then Google him. Okay. That's part of the yay boo of I had a 34,000 row spreadsheet, but I had
Right.
no idea the diamonds in the rough that existed in it. And so now
Yes.
we're keeping that stuff together. Keep communicating, keep asking, you'll find success.
Yes, exactly. Just keep going. Just keep going. Don't decide for people too. Somebody who gives
Yes.
$100, that tells you nothing about their capacity, about anything other than today they gave you $100, and that is a beautiful thing. But
Yeah.
beyond that, like we cannot generalize, and that is such a good reminder.
I think the other happy accident that has to do with Giving Tuesday for us, and someone specifically mentioned it to me, my neighbor actually, my husband became an Iron Five, and her husband had donated to him, so they got our appeal in the mail, our year-end appeal.
Yep.
We intended to send that first class postage, and miscommunication, it went out bulk rate. So it hit 2 or 3 weeks after we intended, which was a bummer, but it
Hmm.
ended up arriving the weekend before Giving Tuesday. So she made the comment to me, well, I thought that was intentional because then your branding was similar for Giving Tuesday.
Right,
So it's
right,
like, oh, I got that in the mail. Now I'm getting the email. Now I'm seeing
right.
it on social. And I was
Yeah,
like, okay, well, you can think that was intentional. It
that's
drove
right.
us crazy, but okay. So I think,
It ended up kind of priming them, right?
yes, like that multi-channel approach, I think also led to more success with Giving Tuesday. But at the same time, our year-end appeal, we're well over 50% to goal, and we've already hit the number of participants the number of donors to our year-end campaign. We've already hit that as of 5 days ago.
Congratulations. You're rocking it. You're rocking it. And is funding up year over year revenue? Like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So for everyone that says, doom scroll, doom scroll, I'm going to say it again. Is your revenue up year over year?
It's
She's
significantly up.
nodding.
Yeah.
Significantly up. Significantly up. Okay. So no doom scrolling. I want to talk about your storytelling because you started to kind of say it, but one of the things I remember when you sent me your initial emails, and one of the things we really worked on in Easy Emails in the class was just telling telling not only the stories of impact, but even your story or your staff, or just letting people in. Like instead of sounding like an ominous brand, just letting people in. So, how have either the tone of your stories changed, the content or the quality changed? Just let's dig into storytelling a little bit.
Yeah, I think, I'm a relationship person. I think every fundraiser is a relationship person. I don't know that many people set out to become a fundraiser, right? We happen into it because we develop friendships, we develop
Hmm.
relationships, discover that there's that natural inclination. Our storytelling has definitely evolved, and it's through the relationships that we are making with the individuals that we serve. Um, I think that's a huge part of it, to where we feel more comfortable going to people to say, may I tell your story?
Yep.
I saw a great LinkedIn post from someone I have followed and enjoyed forever. Lynn Wester, the donor relations
Oh
guru, has
yes, love her.
coined the
Yes.
word don't do a task. Don't thank people and ask, right? Your year-end appeal shouldn't talk about everything that's been accomplished. It needs to focus on, this is what we can do because of you next year,
A
right?
task. Beautiful.
It's amazing. And it's so true because we're so like, but my mind very naturally goes to talk about all the great things we do with the money. We've registered more than ever families
Sure.
for our programs. We've,
Yep.
baseball events, like everything is through the roof. Well, no, what am I going to do with your money
I try
next
that.
year?
That's right. Let's vision cast. Let's dream. Like paint the
Yes.
picture for next year because I want to get excited about that and go get my wallet. Right. That's
Yeah.
that's
So
right.
this
She's on
year,
track.
like, our year-end appeals strategy, we dropped one. So we did a mailed piece that hit the day before Giving Tuesday.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we did one email last week, and it's the story of one of the ALS families that we've served, young woman living with ALS in North Carolina. Volunteer went out to serve her. She, in addition to cleaning out her garage and doing the around the home projects that our program helps with, she was interested in creating a backyard oasis. They went to Lowe's to pick up the supplies because our amazing volunteer, Chris, had said, oh my gosh, we'll help with that too. We've got you. They go to Lowe's. He stops and talks to the manager at the Lowe's and says, hey, I'm here. I'm a volunteer with Lou Gehrig's fraternity. We're serving this family.
Yep.
Um, what can you do? The guy gave them 50% off whatever they could order. Amazing. So we
Yep.
shared this story last week. We posted on social media. I tag Lowe's Home Improvement in on Instagram. They responded. It's Friday night. I'm at a holiday party,
Yes.
and I like open my Instagram and it's on Live Like Lose, and I'm like, Lowe's Home Improvement responded. But we're telling those stories of, this is what we can do. And it's the gift of time to this ALS family. They can spend time together in this beautiful backyard oasis now, that because
Yep.
our volunteer was there and our volunteer said yes, they're going to do it, right? And we tell that story and, give so that we can recruit more volunteers, recruit more families, and give the gift
Yes.
of time to other ALS
That's
families.
right.
Time is what they want with a fatal disease. We'll tell the story tomorrow of one of our researchers that we funded, that because of the money she received from the Live Like Lou Foundation, it gave her access to trainings to read her data more specifically that she wouldn't have had it not been for our funding.
Yep.
She was able to hire a postdoctoral fellow with the funding to dig into the research. This was the research he was interested in. He came and worked for her because of Live Like Lou's funding. So we're telling more of those stories because we're creating the relationships, we're meeting the people,
Yep.
and we're asking permission. We're asking, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're never going to agree unless you ask. And I think people want their stories told. And our third one is the ALS awareness story. a gentleman named Guy who received, so part of our work with Major League Baseball is we work with the Permobile Foundation, who they produce wheelchairs,
Mhm,
and we
mhm.
give them a grant that they then they then give the gift of mobility through a power wheelchair to people living with ALS, which with this disease, the wheelchair becomes, um, I mean, it's a person living with ALS, it's their lifeline for safety, for independence,
Yep.
for everything with this disease when they get to a certain point. So we did a wheelchair surprise before the Philadelphia Phillies game in September. And this gentleman named Guy received the chair. He wasn't familiar with the Live Like Lou Foundation. We've started exchanging emails. In this message he sent back to me, he said, Wendy, in the Pride of the Yankees, I watched with my grandfather and I saw that when Lou Gehrig considers himself, as he tells the world he has ALS, and he said he considered himself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. He said, I watched that movie with my grandpa thinking, what is he talking about? Like, he has a terminal disease. How can he consider himself lucky? And Guy sent this email saying that, on the field at the Phillies game that day, he realized what it meant. And for Lou Gehrig to be able
Mm.
to say he considered himself to be lucky. Sorry.
No, you're
That's our final email push and final social media push for fundraising this year. So it's being curious to hear the stories that people have, being curious to understand the impact that we're having, to measure the success of our programs, and to know that we're making a difference in the work that we're doing, and then asking if we can tell their story. And I sent him the clip of the email and I said, Guy, I've thought of you, September 9th was that game. And I've thought of him every day since. Whenever we have some luckiest like shirts we sell in our store and things, sent him and his wife the shirt. Um, I've thought of him every day when I see our luckiest branding.
Yep.
It's so important. It's so powerful. So I think making the storytelling, telling personal, being curious about our audience, and they want to help. And when I wrote him the email and copied and pasted the section of it that I was asking permission to quote, he was like, anything for you guys. You're doing incredible work. Happy to be part of it. So
That's right. It's an honor for him to be part of it. It's an honor for
absolutely,
you to have him part of it. It's reciprocal. One of the
absolutely.
things that you said really well in those three storytelling examples is is a through line for a lot of organizations who are dealing with something that is it's heartbreaking. Like sad isn't the word. I don't know. It's heavy, right?
Yeah.
You just told three stories in a way that were inspirational, warm, uplifting, had joy in them. I think our eyes both welled up. They're sad too. They're both. And it's a really important look at and reminder that you can tell air quotes serious stories in a way that don't make you feel worse after reading them, right? We don't have to tell stories in a way that like the 6 o'clock news tell stories, in a way for people to like guilt give, right? We can
Right.
tell stories that are still that still have the reality that we haven't figured out a cure yet, right? And it's still underscore that reality. And this is what we're working on. And this is the success we've had. And I think that is a balance that isn't easy, but you've really done well in those three examples. And those are the stories. No wonder your open rate is so high. We want to read
Yeah.
those stories, you know?
Thanks. Yeah. And again, with more people power to tell the stories better, and to have someone who's like, we need to interview them and we need to ask permission. We need to feature that on our blog and in a social media post. I mean, it's exciting to see. I'm going to struggle to set that open rate next year goal. So might need some of your wisdom on that. But the storytelling piece of the work that we do in nonprofit is powerful.
That's
And
right.
in this disease, hope is hard. Hope is a four-letter word in ALS, right?
Hmm.
To quote Brooke Eby, there are no survivors in ALS,
Hmm.
but there's hope in the research and the promising scientists that we are funding. There's hope in the time that we can give families to spend together without worrying about landscaping and pulling weeds and putting mulch down or hanging holiday lights.
Yep.
We can take care of that. We can give the hope of more. The time that you have is quality time with your family. And so I think that um, that's really powerful in how we focus our work, and how this disease is brutal. We had So we have more than 500 ALS families that have registered with us since we started, and we realized that there were quite a few, especially pre having the database and things like that. We didn't know if they were opening our emails, receiving them, all of that kind of stuff. We have that tracking
Hmm.
information now, but we did do some research for about a month, and within 3 weeks, we had 65 people that we found obituaries for. that had passed away of this disease, because that's how this disease works.
Right.
And it, so there are days that are really tough, and especially, oh my gosh, like Kathy Jones in Maryland, um, she passed away a couple months ago. We gave a home improvement grant to her. I had exchanged personal emails with her many, many times. Laura, my programs director that you met,
Yeah.
it was also incredible. Laura had connected with her about the home improvement grant process. She passed away. Like those days when we find that out, when we get the memorial gift of, in memory of
Mm.
Kathy Jones, it's a gut punch for sure. But it's powerful to know that the Kathy Jones of this world, like we made a difference for her in this disease and for her family. And I had a call with her husband last week, and, just incredible things coming as a result of those relationships. So it sucks, but we find the bright moments that we are offering something that's really powerful.
You're creating a community through those moments. I think that diagnoses like these have an isolation, and part of what you're doing just with the awareness piece is creating a community. It's part of what I'm thinking of her handle, Brooke, that we were talking about. It's like,
Yeah, limp
yeah,
bruise
yeah,
kid.
yeah. Everybody needs to go. I mean, she has created such an awareness and such a humor, and it's not all rainbows and daisies, but she's created a community, and that's part of what you're talking about. So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have 4 new board members joining us January 1st, 2024. Really excited about the impact that they're going to bring to us. One of them, younger, lost her mom, Sandy Morris, to ALS about a year and a half ago. Kylan is our new board member's name. And she was saying, my goal is to get Live Like Lou on TikTok. I was like, I don't know about, TikTok, Gen X, like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't know about the tip book.
yeah.
I do. I scroll TikTok way too much. Just ask my husband. But for me, it was like that moment of what would Live Like Lou's role be on TikTok? Okay, I see the videos of the guys receiving a wheelchair on the Philadelphia
Mm,
Phillies field before a game. And, there are some really great moments in video that we could absolutely tap into to
yep,
tell our story differently and better. And I think Brooke has done that so powerfully, and just again with humor, and like she's personalizing this.
she is.
Um, she's
I
part of
mean,
an organization called
yeah.
ALS Story. It's all women living with ALS diagnosed before the age of 35. Live Like Lou will be funding them with a grant this year or next year in 2024.
Oh my gosh, beautiful.
Incredible organization. When you see 50 women, many of whom are in their wheelchairs,
Yep.
traveling together for their ALS Warrior Weekend, you get to know what ALS is really quickly. You get curious for what this is, and who are you, and why are you here, and what does this mean? And it's
It's
powerful.
we love as the best part of social media is the looking glass we get in. And she was just in New York, and she was doing like follow me through, and she was
Yes,
in her wheelchair, and it was just amazing. She's like, she was nervous about one thing. She got stuck between her wheelchair, got
her
stuck
bed.
between the 2 beds in her hotel room, finding the humor in it, but also just showing us like that happens. That happens. And when you're stuck between it, you're stuck between the 2 beds, or plowing through the streets as fast as she could, through the New York City streets, and finding the humor in it, and just like, but she's giving me so much understanding of what she's going through, where she's like, okay, 6 months ago, I could kind of feel this leg a little bit, or I had some use of this leg. I do not anymore. This is what it's looking like, or this, and that piece it's going to have, and it already is having it just an insane impact, particularly for younger generations, bringing them up. Right. Yeah.
Well, in her video just a couple weeks ago, ironically, it was the night before we were touring our friends at the Permobile Foundation. We were touring their location in Lebanon, Tennessee with our board and staff. We had a board meeting at the beginning of the month. The night before, she posted about getting her big kid chair. That when
Yes.
you move into that power wheelchair, it's like that
Yep.
moment of, okay, like this has all the bells and whistles on it. It was really powerful to me. I don't know this disease. I don't pretend to think that I know everything about this disease in any way, shape, or form. But watching her video, I learned I had no idea. So ALS begins either lumbar onset, meaning hands, legs, feet, and arms,
Hmm.
or oh my gosh, my brain just totally lumbar onset or bulbar onset, affecting speaking, breathing, and
Hmm.
swallowing.
Hmm.
No matter how it starts, it ends the same. But so Brooke has lumbar onset. It's affecting only her legs at this point, that she's completely
Yep.
paralyzed from the waist down. But she was talking about in her big kid wheelchair that it has the little devices that move your legs together. That it, like the padding that supports it coming from the side. And she talked about, yeah, I'm paralyzed from the waist down. If I sit in a regular wheelchair, my legs splay open.
Yes.
Providing dignity, right? But that was such like an
Yes.
aha for me. I've always wondered what those are for. You have no
I
control.
I saw this week, so she's at the holiday party and she had the wheelchair and it lifts you up and she was narrating her video
Yeah,
and she was
yeah.
like, and that was really nice because I got to talk to my coworkers basically like face to face,
Eyeball
eyeball
to
to
eyeball.
eyeball. I'm like,
Yep.
dignity, dignity, dignity. Also,
Dude.
again, helping me understand, holy crap, right? Of just
Yep.
all of it, all of it. And so that is on my best day why I love social media so much. And then ultimately how I'm like, let's get everybody on social over to your email list because that's where the true
Yes.
nurturing happens. But yeah,
Well, and we're now the unofficial Brooke EB podcast or fan
I
club. So
know. I
share
mean,
this with
we're
her.
linking to her so everybody can go follow her because she's
Perfect.
wonderful. Okay, before we wrap up and I ask you our final question, is there anything else that you would like to share that I haven't gone through today? I feel like we ran the gamut. So thank you for this deep dive into email, and I'm still just very excited about all of it. That your revenue is up, that your open rates are up, your frequency has tripled. Like, and I would imagine it made just writing appeals in general a little bit easier because you're just
Yeah,
when you have great stories to tell, the process gets easier of telling them.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I think we hit on all
I
the
think we
big
hit it.
stuff. And
Yes.
again, like I so highly, not to wax poetic, but I so highly recommend going through your easy emails for impact. Was so beneficial for us. Great way to start the year and just really set our intentions of frequency, understanding the importance of it, and stepping out and
Yeah.
trying new things. It really paid off. So I'm really grateful. You set up a really great foundation for us at the beginning of the year.
Amazing. Music to my ears. Thank you. So we ask everybody that comes on the podcast, what is one thought that you like to think on purpose? So it can be an affirmation, a mantra, just anything that you feel like is just guiding post, a guiding kind of beacon for you, a light. Would you share that with us?
Absolutely. And it definitely relates to this work. I mentioned that I have worked out at Orange Theory for a number of years. Not one of my favorite Orange Theory coach, Connie. In those hard moments of doing a HIIT workout when you're in your 40s, and the last thing you need to be doing is running your face off and rowing and lifting heavier weights than you've ever lifted in your entire life. She says, we get to do this. And I think there is such power in that my body is capable to do hard things right now. And so because of that, I'm going to devote that to myself. I get to do it. And we're bringing it full circle to Live Like Lou. Just over a year ago, we got connected with someone who was a Phi alum, and he was doing a 100-mile bike ride in honor of his friend Lori Roselle living with ALS and raising money for another ALS organization. He contacted Phi headquarters and said, hey, I'm doing this fundraiser. And we said, well, hey, did you know that we've got Live Like Lou? And so we started talking. Ironically, I live, 5 miles away from this family affected by ALS. And this gentleman's name is John. We started exchanging some phone calls and emails and have definitely become friends. But he was training for his bike ride a year ago, October. And there was hurricane in Florida. The weather was crummy. He was hurting, right? 100 miles is a big deal. And
Yep.
he and I had a phone call and I shared the sentiment that my favorite coach says so often, that we get to do this. And he texted me a picture when we hung up. It's the first text that I have that we ever exchanged of he printed out, we get to do this, and pasted it on his wall.
Mm,
So I think about that in the work of people living with ALS. They don't get to do Orange Theory. They don't get to stay in jobs that they love because their body fails, and they're not in a position to be able to do that, or the financial burden or the treatment burden,
yeah.
or because they pass away. We get to do this work. It's my absolute honor and privilege. And I think just knowing, as long as I am able, I can do hard things, and I can push myself. We get to do this.
We get to do this. That was a beautiful one. Thank you so much. I couldn't the beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. We will link to everything in the show notes, but just give us a quick, where can everybody connect with you?
Yeah, definitely on LinkedIn, Wendy Faust, Faust. And I would love to connect on there, and at Live Like Lou or Live Like Lou 4, depending on the platform. So Live Like Lou 4 on Instagram and Twitter or X, and Live Like Lou Foundation on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christina.